So they want to create leads, unique leads, whenever there is an inquiry. Inquiry means the person who is reaching your company or to inquire about some products. He might be the lead also. Only based on some condition only. If I'm putting that condition in that trigger on inquiry object, the filter, so that inside the filter I'm going to create leads and I'm adding all the leads to one list and I'm saving into lead object. Yeah. So you can do this type of items, and so it depends on the requirement. So when we choose triggers is when we cannot do the requirement given by means given by the business team with workflow rules or validation rules, we can use triggers. So sometimes if you want to do complex validations where you need to check the object which is not related to this, and we have to summarize the data on that object, and we have to save these records, then there is a lot of things you have to do here. Then in this case, you have to write a query on the object what you are saving, on which you want to put restrictions based on data on other object. Later on, in the trigger, you have to query the other object records, and we have to summarize the data particular to that record. And so if the condition is validating, you can show some error on the page saying that this data cannot be saved because of this issue. You can show some custom message. You can even add errors from trigger also. There's add error method. That's how it will add the same message like validation rules. You can even add at the field level. You can even add at the top level also. Yeah. So if you want to try that example, I can share that example to you. The trigger for validation rules on account object only. So it's still available. I can explain you for the first 5 minutes. And later on we'll be working on test classes where we use them. So generally, the test class what you are writing need to show the means you have to write. You are writing test classes for getting code coverage. Code coverage means your test class what you are writing will be passing all your code line by line. So if there are 1,000 lines in your computer organization, if it is passing to 900 lines, the code coverage is 90%. That's how it calculates. We will be working on that. Now let's see the last final example on triggers. Yeah. You can see this. Trigger. This is not a bulkified thing. So I showed you how to see the bulkified. Right. So what happens if I'm inserting many records here? It won't work. So you have to use list of accounts and you have to parse it one by one. You can use trigger.new instead of trigger.new of 0. Trigger.new of 0 is only giving only one record, right? So if phone field not equal to if phone field equal to now account.phone add error, please insert phone number. I am adding at the field level. See, this is very simple. Means I am not putting any logic here. Simply if the phone field is null, it shows this error. This can be built in validation rules also. You can, if a phone is blank of phone field, if it is true, I can show please insert a phone number that error and the error message. But the same thing I'm trying to show here, but you can do advanced stuff, advanced logic here. You can put a lot of inside it. You can, as I said, you can use a lot of and ors and type of statements. You can put 4, 5, 6, any number of logics. So this will calculate automatically. So sometimes what happens, right? The validation rules are formulas what you means inside formulas what you are giving. There is a limit for that. That is 4,000. Some formula fields might need more than 4,000 characters. In that cases, we have to use apex triggers. Okay, that really won't work. So in my previous project, there are many validation rules which use validating a lot of taxes. All this information based on the account tax. It's automatically calculating taxes on the quote object. There are many formula fields which is more than 4,000. All these things we first started with validation rules. We thought it works. Later on, we found that it's reaching the limit, and we finally moved everything to the triggers. Okay. So what happens here? Every time when the account is inserted, here I'm using before insert. Before inserting only, I'm trying to modify these values. Okay. No need to use two things. I can simply use before insert. So I am simply updating the value before inserting the record only. So there is an order of trigger execution. That's really important. In SalesForce. So what is the order? Whenever you're clicking on a button, what is the order of validation rules, triggers, everything? That's really important. So I have to check this. So this is the actual order, triggers and order of execution. First of all, generally it loads the original record on the database, initializes the record for an upsert statement. Even though when you are trying to insert some data into the system, if you have entered unique ID, which is already same, if you want to click, if you want to update these things, it will upsert, it will update it. Means it loads the new record values from the request to override the old values. It generally loads, okay? It won't even save into the database. So there are a lot of steps here. So later on, as you are on the standard UI page, if your request is coming from the standard UI page, these things will go on, okay? It will check the compliance of the layout specific rules, okay? Basic validation rules, all the required fields, errors, all these things it will check first. Later on, valid field formats. For suppose if you are entering number in inside text, inside number field you are entering text values, it will throw some error in this step. Next step is length of fields. If you are entering 50-digit value inside 30-digit value field, it shows error. So it checks all these things in step-by-step fashion. So here it's saying Salesforce will not perform system validation in this step. when the request comes from other resources, such as application, Apex application or SOAP API call. When you're trying to do insert from third-party apps, I think it won't check these validation rules. Okay. Salesforce runs user-defined validation rules. Yeah. So Salesforce generally runs user-defined validation rules only on these scenarios, such as quote line items and opportunity line items. I think these are multi-line items, it seems. Okay, these two objects, on this type of objects, it will run the user-defined validation rules. Okay, and execute all before triggers. Now the before triggers will work. Now the trigger which I have written now, the values will be updated now. Now later on, so it runs the most of the system validation rule steps again, because when you are doing before triggers, so you are going to update the data. Means you may have chances of entering bad data also, right? Then it will run the system validation rules again. Okay, and all the layout things, all these things will run. See, layout validation, system validation rules comes from load specific rules. So after system validation rules, it runs user-defined validation rules also, the fourth step, and later on it executes duplicate rules. So if you are using the unique values, all this stuff, it's gonna use this. Okay, this is still in beta feature. It seems it's not at launch. So earlier there is only one step for this everything validation, but now they have made a separate step. Yeah, I'm muting all. Yeah, and finally saves the record to the database, but does not commit. Later on, after triggers will execute. So yesterday we have done after trigger, right? After setting an account, you are doing some actions. Because whenever you're trying to update the same object values used before triggers, whenever you're trying to update, whenever you want to, because whenever you want to create other object records based on this object record, use after triggers in their scenarios. Because if you are using before triggers, right, if you are updating the records again in the after triggers, it executes many times. But if you're using before triggers, if you're updating the values in the current object, before saving only it executed, then again it won't again run before triggers thing. Okay, executes all triggers, after triggers, and later on execute assignment rules, auto response rules. Assignment rules, because you can assign records based on some criteria to some users, right? That rules will execute. Auto response rules, emailing thing, auto response rules. So you can enable auto response rules for leads cases. That rules will be fired. It will send out an email, or it will do some immediate responses, okay, to the user who created the case. Later on, it will execute workflow rules on that object, okay. And if you are a workflow field updates, it will do that again after that. So if so, this is also a new step. If a workflow field updates introduce a new duplicate field value, because when you are doing field updates, you are inserting a duplicate value in the system. Executes duplicate rule again. This step will be executed again. If the record was updated with workflow field update, fires before update triggers and after update triggers one more time. Only one more time, not many times, okay? Because this status will be saved, okay? Because you've already done this. In this case, it only executes one more time. It won't execute again before triggers all this stuff. They have clearly mentioned. In addition to standard validations, custom validation tools are not run again. These two things. Because it's already executed, and execute process will all the other processes like workflow triggers and approval things, all these things will run. Executes escalation rules. It related to, because it won't be available to all the objects, right? So if you are using that feature, for suppose case object, it runs this. Later on, entitlement. Entitlements are also part of Service Cloud that will be executed. And if the record counts the roll up summary field on its parent object, yeah, it also counts. See, the parent object goes through the same procedure. It updates the value with the child objects what you are inserting, and it saves the value in the parent object. And parent record is updated, and the grandparent record contains roll up summary field, that's also updated because of this record only. Okay? If A, B, C are related to each other, if B is the parent of C, A is the parent of B, if C record is inserted, all the steps will be executed, and here the B step is updated, the B record is updated, and again A record is also updated in the 18th step. Executes criteria based sharing evaluation. You have sharing rules in your system, right? So where all the people belongs to this city, I want to share records to one guy who is coming to that city for a small visit. A sales manager who is coming for a small visit. That requirements you can do with this, and commit all DML operations to the database. Now the main thing happens. You are saving the data at the 20th step, and execute post logic operations such as sending emails. Finally, sending emails with workflow rules. This is done here because only after complete confirmation only the system will send emails. Okay. So these are 21 steps. Each and every record in Salesforce. Most of them will follow this. Some will follow, will skip some of the steps because they are not using that features, like auto response rules. If they're not using workflow rules, they won't go through the complete process. Okay. And these are additional considerations. What is the so what happens if this is happened? What happened if the person updating the record is again updating with workflow rule with a different condition and making it as some unique value, something like that. All these scenarios are here. These are additional considerations, and you can look into this. Yeah, that's the reason you have to think about this. So I think someone added after insert also, really not needed here in this scenario. You have to make these triggers very simple. So if you if you did a bad trigger, it results in bad coding, and it will take a lot of Salesforce resources because it executes a lot of times. So here, as I'm updating the same object records, that is account phone and account type, I am using before insert. If I'm using after insert, means again after insert it will update it. Again it will again after inserting it, if workflow rule is anything is modifying it, again means again I have to insert the record if I'm using after insert. For before insert, there is no need to insert record or update the record. This is fine. This is required. Okay, and I'm clicking on active and I'm clicking on save. Let's try this. Again, this is not the bulk if I triggered. I'm just showing you how we are building validation rules. So the bulkified example I showed you yesterday, right? Yeah, let's click on new. Account number field is required. Customer number, yeah. It's here. Okay, and I think what conditions are there in this account phone is equal to null currently. So it'll add an error like this. And see, I'm not setting the account type. This is the type field. Now what's that? Very hot. I don't know, because that this is the type field. Yeah, I can use rating. I want to mark it as hot automatically. Okay. Because they are using some bad value, request value. If it is not there, it will be problem for us. Photo fields, which type field, whether it has value or not. And there is no value called very hot here. Someone modified this. Okay. Let's use rating. If you see the checklist value, there is a hot. Okay, it's not default value, but I want to, with this trigger, I want to make this default value. So it's not blank currently. I'm clicking on save. There's no value in the phone field also. Please enter phone number at the field level. Use my trigger getting fired. What's the trigger? To modify it today. This is the trigger. This is the phone number. Because we are already using Let's use another information, that is facts, because this field is done with validation rule. Okay, that's the reason. First of all, let's check whether my rating is not set. Okay, cool. The validation rule is blocking. I'm inserting some value because this is so. What happened, right? The validation, the system validation means validation rule is executing before that. That is my thing is not yet executed. This thing is already given with us. See, please enter the fax number. Because what happened, the same phone number trigger I have implemented with the validation rule that's executing before this. So even my before trigger is not executing because of that rule. Now what happened, I have fixed this. Now I am using my trigger on other object. Now the record is trying to save. There is no issues with the validation rules. Now the before insert trigger is getting, I think, is getting fired now. So now I will try to enter some value. Click on save. Right, see, I got the fax number and even got the rating equal to hot as the before trigger is executed. Right, that's how I can do it. And so you can extend this trigger to anything. Okay, in the same trigger you can even add a logic to create the contact also. There's nothing problem. Okay, so what happens, earlier there are people creating many triggers on the same object. For different requirement they create different triggers. Now means the best practice is create one trigger, and from the trigger you can call even Apex classes also. You can create one Apex class which helps this trigger. You can call the methods of that class from this trigger. So what is the class? That's called, class is called supporting class. Means it's simply a name, you can use it. So supporting class for trigger, where you create all the methods required to modify this type of logic, all this stuff. And in your main trigger, you generally call that methods one by one. If the condition is this, call this method. If the condition is that, if one field is equal to null, call this method. So generally, people do in other way. If you want to write insert, if your account is getting inserted, you want to do some logic, you call some method, and the complete logic is available in the Apex class. It's a method in that. And if it is before update, then is before delete, you can call some different function. The type is so. With this way, you can simply update the Apex class. You can get new methods for new functionalities, but there will be only one trigger for the account. You are calling different methods in your Apex class. If you want to add new functionality, you create new method in the Apex supporting class for this trigger, and you can call this method from whichever pair context variable you want to do that. From whichever event you want to call, you can call and you can put in that loop. That's how it works. So now let's start working on the test classes. Why we use test classes? Let's go to the develop. If we have something here. So we use test classes to execute our current code. So means some people think test classes means writing your means the QA people, like the quality testing people, will generally think they have to write some spreadsheet things. So what happens if the person is clicking on this? That's also sometimes called as test classes. So it's not that. You have to write a coding classes to run your application, to test your application line by line. You have to input the values. You have to get the expected values at the end, because the classes what you are writing will do some operations, right? The Apex classes what you are writing will do some logic, will give some results, will return some variables at the end of the method, and the complete page, at least there are 200 lines of code, the complete thing is a logic. Sometimes what happens is when you are developing with multiple people, so some people have created some dummy methods which are not using in the project. If you are using that type of methods which are not useful, which are having really bad code in that, so what you can do, you have to remove that. So some people will forget that. So if you are when you are writing test classes, you can see which all classes are useful. That's one advantage. And so it decreases for writing test classes, you can decrease the number of lines of code what you are using in the system, because you are going to remove the unnecessary code which you are not using in the project. Because if you are using unnecessary code, you have to write test method for that also in your test class. Because if there are 10 methods in your Apex class, you have to write a test class for calling all these 10 methods, for inputting values to all the 10 methods, for validating and checking the results of these 10 methods. So yeah, let's go with a very basic example. And Apex test execution. So this is the component where you can run the test classes, okay, test coverage. So here is what. So before deploying you generally write test classes for Apex classes and triggers only. This is the main logical and coding part, right? VF pages, you don't write any test classes, not required. So you must write a unit test that covers 75% of the total Apex code in your organization. If there are 1 lakh lines in your instance, you have to write test coverage minimum for 75,000 lines or plus. Otherwise, the test coverage will be shown as less than that, because it calculates whenever you are running the test classes. It shows this means if the percentage is less, what it's going to do is it's not going to allow you to deploy your components to the other instances. The deployments won't work when the test coverage is less. You can't move your code to other organizations. Okay. For knowing the test coverage, select there's one way. Go to Apex classes. On the top there is a button, run all tests. Run all tests means it will execute only all the test classes. See, currently the organization is having only 11.03% of test classes. We are currently using this many characters of Apex code, okay? Because all the tests, some people think when they are writing test classes of 200 lines of test class for a class, what happens to my number of code of lines? It won't be included in this number of lines. These are free lines, you can use it. Okay. It excludes comments and even @ test annotation classes also. All the test classes will be excluded, and even it excludes comments also. You can put a number of comments in your classes to tell the other developers or for the future developers who are going to use this application, this is the use of this class. You have to modify this particular thing to modify this functionality. The type of comments it's useful to add, and it's best practice also. And out of limit, so the allowed limit is 3 million lines of code, 3 million characters of code. Oh, okay, I think this is the percentage used. Okay, this is not the code coverage. I will tell you. So estimate your organization's code coverage. This is the button for that. So if you click on run all tests here, it will run all tests of your instance, only the test classes. How to identify which is a test class, which is not a test class? So @isTest notation is available, is inserted to test classes only. not to the main classes. So when you are creating controller classes, you are not using use test annotation when you are starting your class. But for the test classes, you have to add this. Let's check this wrapper test class. So this is a test class. What is test? Means now this complete code will not be counted in this number of lines of code. And what I'm doing is the class name is this. I can name anything. It's really good practice to use the same name as your class what you are writing test class underscore test or append your test at the end of it, because so this is the test class for account wrapper. I can easily say because I'm creating the test class with the same name, but I'm appending with underscore test. And so this is the test method, that is M1 static method. Okay. What in the static method, what I'm doing is I'm trying to call account wrapper. See, account wrapper is the class name, ACW, new ACW, and so this is the actual code inside it. Okay. For that, I'm writing test class here. Okay. Account test v2. No, okay. Yeah. So currently, what I'm doing here is I'm simply means I commented this for somehow. I don't know what's the reason. First of all, let's query this. Let's use developer console for now for checking the test classes. Stop this. I want to open in the new tab. Use control click if you want to open in the new tab. In the code, what I'm showing is wrong, and let's, because I'm simply using the main logic there, not the. One second. Just getting some test class example, thinking on which page will you work for me. Yeah. So let's go to our very old class, that is Ajax class. Okay. Do you remember that we have written some Ajax class? We click on open. Classes. Ajax class. File. Open. See, you don't think that so the method what I'm currently trying to show is really simple. Anyway, this is the dummy method. We don't use this. This I'm using for another class because the same class is supporting two other classes. Change name and okay. This is the test class for this class. So if you want to run this code, first of all, I have to initialize. I have to call this method Ajax class, and whenever you're calling this method will be automatically executed, right? Give me a second. Okay. So I want to use page reference also. PG equal to obj dot change. Yeah, that's it. Now I have completed the test class for this. So whenever first of all, this is the test class with @use_test notation. This is called annotation. So there are some annotations in our system which I showed you. Use remote, okay. That is test or deprecated. These annotations will use, okay, for different requirements. Use test is for making this as a test class, and the class name is this. The same class appended with underscore test is the format I am following. You can do it anything, but I'm recommending you to use this same format, or you can even use Ajax class test directly without underscore. This is the static method. Static test method is also required. Void m1 because I'm not writing anything here. And Ajax class obj. I'm creating the object now for Ajax class. New Ajax class. This is how I am calling this class. When I'm calling this class, what it does is it runs this Ajax class thing, right? When I'm calling this, I'm going to call the name. I'm going to call this. So this line, these three lines are covered now. The loops also will be covered automatically. If I'm calling this is the constructor class. That's the reason I will call the complete logic because I'm initializing some name variable to complete technologies. That's how I'm calling these three lines. Later on, what happens is till here you have done. Now I'm calling page reference pf equal to object change. Object dot change is a method in Ajax class. Object is instance of Ajax class, right? And you're calling the change method inside it. Means I'm calling this. Means this method is also covered. If there are a lot of inside loops and logics, if it is accepting parameters, you have to send the parameters also. First of all, you have to create the parameters for that sample. If this method is accepting account object, you have to create account object. You have to create and insert into the test class. Insert the test class, and you use that reference, and you can pass that reference here. The account object you can pass into this. That's how you have to pass. This is the very simple class. That's the reason I'm not passing anything, and I'm not returning anything. And I'm calling this completely executed, and it returns no. There is no logic inside it. It's a simple method. And now later on, I'm calling obj.change name. Now this method will be called. So inside it, there's name equal to good morning. I'm assigning this value. That's fine. Object change, unchange name. I'm changing value again back to, I'm calling this method again. So with this, I have executed all the lines of code. So I'm trying to click on save. So I'm clicking on run tests. It's showing success, and I can see the debug log. Yeah, 0 failures. So the overall coverage, you don't worry about that. The coverage you have to see only for this class, Ajax class. Let's come to Ajax class. See, this is Ajax class, and it has 100% test coverage. When you are executing all the test classes, then it will show some other percentage for all the classes, because anyway, in this instance, I have not created test classes for all the classes. Only some classes I have created test classes. So now, see the test class result for Ajax class. This complete lines of code is executed. That's what it's saying. When I'm clicking on this, these lines are executed, and it's 100%. It won't count that first line and last line. See, there are 9 lines. 9 lines out of 9 lines are covered. If you are using comments inside it, it won't be counted. You can use a number of comments in this class, that won't be counted. That won't be considered even in doing things. Okay. Now we have done very simple class. Let's try with some other example test class for the wrapper class or the thing. Okay. So let's create a test class for the wrapper class, what we created. Okay. But there are a lot of validation rules. First of all, I want to disable that first. Okay, now let's go to classes. Just dealing with this one. Okay, let's pick one class which I have created recently. That is open. Wrapper for account. Yeah. Let's write the test class for this. So I'm creating a new class that is wrapper2 underscore test. I'm clicking on OK for the access. Okay. Wrapper2 test. Yeah, it's already here. That's what I have already written. Let's execute this. If this is giving an error, let's check it. It's executing and it's 0. There is 0 failures, 1 total execution. Okay. Now I'm just checking the wrapper2. How is the test coverage? Go to the bottom because the W item is, yeah, it's 95%. I'm clicking on this. So this is completely executed. So exception is not handled properly. This is one problem. So to go through this exception, first of all, I'll explain this code. Let's fix this issue also. So this is the class. So first of all, let me show you what all required for wrapper2 class. So in wrapper2 class, you're using contact object. You're using contact wrapper also. That's the contact wrapper, and you're using list of contact wrappers also. That's the list of contact wrappers. And we have to, anyway, when you are calling this wrapper2 main class, it automatically calls this constructor class. That's fine. It automatically initializes this code. When you're initializing this code, this is run, this is executed. That's fine. And the for loop also will be executed. But what happened to your data? When you are writing test classes, it won't consider the data in your system. If it is executing for contact select ID name by December, it won't bring the data from the system. You have to write your own data. You have to create the own records in your test class. So that's the reason I need to create contact records, keep it aside, and after that, this complete code will be executed until here it will be executed. Okay, and the for loop is I think no. The for loop is ending here. This executes a number of times, and the main loop is ending here. So this line is not included here. That's the reason it's not showing red color. And again, I'm calling the delete page reference method also from the test class. That is calling this number of lines. That's okay. And finally, when I'm trying to insert the records, yeah, obviously this loop will also be executed. This is in the delete method only. Okay, but this is not getting executed because the data what I'm showing is obviously more than, because I'm getting some contact records. What happens if there's no contact records? That's the catch scenario. This line is not executing. That's the reason I have to give one more method. I'll show it. Control V and I have to call this method. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can rename this like object. one, one, one. I have to name this M2. This is method 2 of this test class. I can name it anything. This is saved, and let's click on execute again. I will re-explain the same method and just want to run the other line also. It's success. Two methods. There are two methods. It's true or success. Let's go to the wrapper 2. Oh, still what is LST total? So the delete records is initializing automatically, and LST wrap. LST wrap, I'm adding it here. My method 2 is calling this and calling object LST1 equal to new list wrapper. That's it. So I'm not calling the main method. I have to call that. Wrapper 2. Wrapper 2 will automatically execute. Then there's no need of this line. Let's comment this. You can use system.debug statements also. What's coming out of this, all this stuff. These lines are generally not required, but clicking on run tests. Well, all my other classes are doing perfectly well, and yeah, because I introduced the catch block. So let's check what's the list wrap. What's the size of list wrap here? So LST wrap is here, right? So what is the size of list wrap? Because it's not only executing this particular line. Oh my God. System.debug. I'm just checking what's happening in list wrap. Is there any values? Because because here I'm not sending any values. If there is no values, what happens? the if logic here, LST, LST.total.size will become 0 because there is no values here. There's no need to add. There's nothing to add in this con list. If this is LST wrap is 0, it will be 0, and this will become 0. LST.total.size will become 0, and if it is, we got it. The try catch is not executing. It's deleting perfectly. There's no any issues, errors. So I have to block it. See, generally what's happening here, I think we cannot do anything here because list total, if it is 0, delete this record. It's completely working fine. The record is 0 only. There's no issues with this. When the record, because there is no errors with deletion here. If there is any error with deletion, then only this catch loop will be fired. Currently, as there is no values in this, delete the blank thing, blank. There's no errors. That's the reason I cannot even run this catch loop. Okay. For suppose if this is a parent of some other object, if ls total, I think it's not the parent, right? See, this is a simple list, and I don't have to, there's no need to block this transaction. So that's the reason I cannot catch this. So I can even directly, this is the correct way. There's no need to, if this is a database insert or this, I can use this. It's not a database insert. Now I'm saving this. Yeah. So there is error here. Let's check what is it. Just click on problems. Okay, wrapper does not have list wrap. Oh, this is the error. I can directly do list wrap. Object one dot. Anyway, this is not required now. Click on save because there's no need to do this logic also. Let's click on run test. Lost my audio. Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me? Right. Yeah, now I'm trying to execute this. I think I'm clicking on run test. Success. I'm going to click on tests. So everything you can see, the logs, checkpoints. You can even use checkpoints also. Checkpoints is like a database concept where you put down checkpoints at multiple points, and you can check what's happening, and you can roll back changes till that. That's simple checkpoints. And now I have better percentage. So I'm just looking this. Yeah, now wrapper is 100% because catch will not be at any point. It won't go to the catch. I made a mistake, so we can't use catch block here. There's no need for this because this is a simple list, and no one will block you to delete a list. This is a list of contacts. That's what I'm doing here. Right now we've got 100% test coverage. Now I'll explain this test class, what's happening here. From this class, you found that you need contact records in the system because the test class needs to use the data on its own. It cannot use the system data. That's the reason, first of all, when I'm calling this method M1, I'm creating the data for my class. Contact con2 equal to this. This is one, I'm initializing contact. Con2.lastname equal to test. Con2.mobile phone equal to this, and insert con2. Same way, contact 1, and I can insert a number of records, but I am inserting only 2 records to simply execute my code, all the lines. Okay, that's it. And wrapper2 object equal to new object. Now I'm calling this my wrapper2 class, this class. When I'm calling this class, it automatically, what happens? It automatically calls wrapper2 constructor class also. This class will automatically initialize this, and it automatically run this for loop. When I'm querying this for loop, I'll get only these 2 records. As I'm currently running in the test mode, it only gets these 2 records. The 2 records are there. Okay. And even I haven't mapped even the account also. That will become blank here in this case. Account contact ID. I'm just using it, but it's obviously blank. What I can do is I can even insert account record first, and account ID, what I'm getting after insert. Okay, this is the account. If it is ACC, I can use like con2 dot account ID equal to ACC dot ID. The account record which you inserted on the top, you can use it here. Okay. So I think why I'm not inserting account is I have kept a lot of validation rules and triggers on this. If I'm using it, I have to create a lot of data, around 7 to 8 fields of data I have to create it. Anyway, that's not required in this current scenario, because as you got 100% test coverage, you are inserting the first record, second record. Later on, you are calling the class. It's going to execute from this line to this line, and later on, so why I'm using contact wrapper? So here because I'm using contact wrapper, that's the reason I'm simply assigning some values to that also. So here, if you see, there is one more contact wrapper object, contact wrapper class also. That's in the starting. See, the contact wrapper I'm using 100%. This class is automatically covering the contact wrapper class coverage also. So what is contact wrapper? Contact wrapper is a separate class because this is a wrapper class I created separately. Okay. This class I'm also getting 100% test coverage for this also because I'm using this inside it. This is helping that in taking the values and updating it. Okay. And finally, I'm inserting values. I'm currently executing object.delete records. This method is automatically calling this complete method. That is method. This will go to this. This will create new list to delete. List wrap is containing 2 records from my tester class. It's going to be recursed 2 times the for loop. The CW is checked true. This will be executed because I marked it as true. when I'm assigning the variables to the class. See the true thing, one false and one true. One time it will execute, one time it won't execute. That's fine. At least one time it will go to this loop, complete lines of code. If I am not giving true variable there, means now it won't go to the if loop. It will go to the if loop, it will come here, but it won't go to this particular thing. This line will not be covered if I am not using true checkbox in that line. And after finishing this, if it will always go to this if loop, if I'm testing whether this is true or not, size is greater than 0 or not. After that, I'm going to delete, and after that I will just pass through these 3 lines. Now I got 100% test coverage. Earlier what's happening, there is no issue with deleting the list of records. Okay. That's the reason it showed some 95% coverage. But anyway, above 75% is okay for your code to be deployed. Even though if you are unable to get it after 80%, if you are unable to bring the test coverage more than that, you can leave it off. Okay. But the best practice is making good coverage 100%. No one will care about that. Okay. They need the code to be deployed to the production server. At least 75% is required for that. That's the limit, and we are okay with that. Now you can move these only 2 classes into the other instance. Got it? So things to remember in test classes is, first of all, you have to really understand the class to which you are writing test class. Later on, what is the requirement? So are they passing any URL parameters? If they are passing URL parameters, you have to use the page reference thing. Okay. If they are working on mainly on account, contact, and opportunity 3 objects, you have to create all the 3 objects in the test class, and you have to insert the records, linking properly each other. I have showed you the thing, right? Contact or account ID like this, and insert them, and I can just simply call them methods. If you are using a lot of for loops and logics, if loops, right, you have to make sure that you go to each and every logic also. If you are doing some condition, some filter condition to execute some block of code, at least there should be at least one condition to pass that code also. All the type of data you have to create different type of data. That's the reason to execute the logic inside the if loop, I am checking one item equal to true inside my contact data also. Got it? So first of all, means if you are writing test class on your own test class, it's easy to write. You can easily and very quickly you can write it. When you're trying to write test class on the other person's classes, it may take extra time, because first of all, you don't know what's happening there. You have to understand the code completely. Later on, you have to start with. Okay. Yeah, that's it. So currently in this, I am using only one method, but for satisfying different conditions and different logics inside the main class, I can use multiple methods also. Okay, I can use more than one method. So earlier there is one other thing, you can write test classes under the same class also. Wrapper2 is a class. Instead of writing separate test class, I can write a test class under that by using test method and use test annotation. But now that feature is disabled in the latest versions. You can only do that in older versions, around 27, 28. After that, I think it's disabled. I don't know the exact version where they have disabled that feature. In that cases, you don't need to write again special class to write test class. Test method, you can simply write test method under the main class only, and you can execute the current code. So, and that feature is no longer available. You have to write test classes separately. So, got it. So generally test classes will be available even for other programming language also, but it's not like mandatory. They generally use this for testing, but that's fine. But these test classes are really easy. Means if you understand properly, yeah, it's very easy. And there are some attributes also. For suppose if you are trying to use custom settings in your requirement, if you want to use the custom settings which is configured in your system, you have to use their attribute. After update use test, you can use see all data equal to true. That's the attribute which shows the data in your organization to your test class, so that your test class can use the data and it can run the test classes. Generally, the data what you are creating, the two records what you are creating today in this test class will not be saved into your system. It's a test class. It's a dummy class, okay? So generally, when I'm executing the same code in execute anonymous block, the two contact records will be already inserted into the system, but it won't happen here. So don't worry. Whenever you're creating data in your test class, it won't be inserted into the system. Okay, and the other way to run test classes is, this is the test class execution. You can run the test classes one by one by clicking on select tests. I can select all by clicking on it, will select all test classes, or I can even select by namespace. What is namespace? If there are multiple namespace, means multiple apps, you can run test classes for different namespaces. So namespace is, for suppose if I'm using Symfony app, so if I'm selecting this, all the Symfony classes will come up, and I'm running test classes only for that Symfony package, not for all the things. So all namespaces, and in that I want to select wrapper 2. Else I'll click my namespace, that is book 9, wrapper 2 test. Select this, click on run test. Now here the result will be shown here. I can even select for all tests also. I don't want to do that now. If I click on select, view, it's success, pass. If there is any failure, it shows a fail and it will show the message and where you have to trace that. Where is the error? All these things will be shown in this page. If I'm clicking on view, I can see the errors and things on the page directly on this screen. The result is this pass. If this is failed, the error message on the stack trace means where you have to fix the issue. All this stuff will be shown here. And coming down to so there is one other way that I already showed you. If you go to Apex classes, you can click on run all tests button to run all the test classes in your instance. So it generally considers all the classes with isTest annotation. It will run all that. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You can't hear me? Yeah, I think it's showing that I'm talking here. Oh, you. Okay. I think as I'm recording this, I will share this recording to you. Okay. And that's it, guys, for today. So make sure that if you have already rated some classes for such page or for any page, you can write very basic test class, because that requirements no need many very big test classes also. Simple 10 lines test class is enough for that. If you are, as you are running, means in the first requirement we have done searching for contact records, right? That's a very basic requirement. There you have to simply write a test class and create the contact records, at least 2 records, and you can simply call the methods. So what happens? Your test class is covered. So now you can run the test class. That's how that's done. So you can do that type of things. So are you guys practicing the examples? At least I can share some guide to you. some VisualForce guide. So it will be very big PDF. At least you can try some of the examples from that PDF. Okay. So there they have given the complete code. You can use the existing, first understand the code and try to write on your own by not watching the code, so that you can understand how to write a syntax very easily. Then if you have any issues, you can recheck with the code. Try to save it. Salesforce will show you the recommendations, the errors on the which lines, all this stuff. Based on that, you can fix the issues. Okay. And yeah, if you want to, again, I want you all the guys to try the examples which I have done in the classes also on your own, at least by checking the code once and going back, seeing the requirement, put down only the method names, what I'm using in each method, and try to build the things on your own in your developer instance, and check it out. If you have any issues, again, come back to the edition and you can check that other code. Yeah, I'm closing the class for today. I'll meet you in the evening, guys. Okay.